Well, and I'm not really religious, but that most of the religions have the golden rule, like treat others the way you would want to be treated. And it's like, how do you want to be treated? Well, I'd love to have people showing up and giving me gifts and helping me out with things without me having to ask them and all these things. It's like, okay, well, like how can I show up in that way in the world? And that's actually a good that I don't know why, but that reminded me of like the I we all I was describing earlier. And so the the I being like the individual starts with us on an individual level. So we create whatever level of consciousness and lifestyle and vitality and that energy, and compassion, acceptance, all these things. Like we're doing the work on an individual level, creating that peace on earth, creating that heaven on earth within yourself, finding that within, and then bringing that to your relationships. Okay, let's create together. Let's co-create in relationships. So now we're both having this harmonious, symbiotic relationship and creation, and then we bring in others, and that's when you get to the all, and that's the all level, and then everything starts to flow in this state of people showing up at the right place at the right time to do the right tasks. Like, I've experienced this working on garden projects and stuff. Things weren't exactly like super organized, but like we would always have the right people show up. We'd always have plenty. Some days there'd be like 12 people because it'd be a big job. We'd have a lot going on. Other days it would be like one person showing up. I remember the first time I showed up to one of the garden projects, I was the only one who showed up besides like the hosts. And it was a really small job. We didn't need anybody else. And so it's like it all kind of lines up perfectly when people start getting heart-centered and navigating from that place. Then when you go to the grocery store, two people pass each other and they're like make eye contact, and the awkward like make eye contact and walk away type. Well, those two people were meant to have an interaction. There was meant to be an exchange of energy, of information, of something. There was meant to be an insight exchanged. And many times, I've witnessed in my own life, my prayers have been answered through my experiences with other people or the animals, like showing up in my life and having symbology, or my dreams. It's like, it reminds me of the story of like praying for, there's like the guy stranded at sea and he's like praying for help. He's like, God, please help me. And God sends him like a helicopter. I'm butchering the story, but he basically sends him like a helicopter, a boat, all these things. And he's like, no, I'm waiting for God. And God's like, bro, like I sent you like all these things. Why didn't you take it? Like I tried to help you. So it's like blessings don't always show up in the way that we expect them to. And oftentimes they don't actually.
Yeah, they
But
come
that's
in disguise.
That's like I have a story. My probably the earliest thing of like religion, because like I was like a Catholic growing up, like just like recently, just like let all that religion like dogma go, right? But I was sitting in church one time and like I was on my knees and like everyone was on their knees like praying and stuff. But like I was probably like 7 or 8 years old, and I was just like, if you're like if someone something's out there, just like send me a sign, right? And then like almost like a minute later, it just started like pouring outside. And then like that's my earliest like foundation of like something. There's a universal consciousness out there that was like listening to me at that exact moment. At the time, I just figured it was God, right? But now I know that it was the infinite just listening to me at all times.
Well, and it's beautiful that you're able to trust that, because oftentimes, especially in my own life, and I've witnessed it with many others as well, is the mind can try to rationalize all these things and be like, oh, well, it was just like this, it's a coincidence, all these things. The mind has all these stories it can rationalize, especially in regards to our addictions. It can, give us all kinds of stories to be like, oh yeah, why not? But where was I going with that? The mind.
Rationalizing stuff.
Oh
Or
yeah,
like I allowed myself to like accept that to be like
yes.
the
You trust.
answer.
That's what it comes down to, right? That's faith. You
Yeah.
trust it. You're like, here's this message being shown to me, and a little tiny voice inside of me is saying like, this is what that means, and trusting that little voice. That's your intuition. And we live in a society with a lot of noise from the frequencies and the towers and the toxic food and all these things. It's all noise, and it's like blocking our ability to effectively hear the real voices, or the subtle voices that are guiding us all the time.
It's all just built as a distraction to keep us off the divine path in a way.
Well, yeah, but also the polarity gives us the experience of
That
this
is true.
Because if we didn't have that, and let's say, I mean, there's a lot of very highly evolved souls on the planet right now. If there wasn't all these things being used against us to hold us down, if that didn't exist, like we would have already been smooth sailing. And it's like, oh, what's the point?
Yeah, that's true. Cause like without the polarity, I wouldn't even be here talking to you right now, honestly, because that's what ultimately led me to my awakening personally. I
When
would
it's
imagine for a lot of people too.
we need that resistance to grow, and we're here to grow and to learn. And so the polarity of the experience, however, whatever form it takes, it's here as a gift for us to process through, to grow through. It's like the caterpillar and the cocoon, like, they got to break their way out, but on the other side they're stronger. And so that's the thing, like, things are going to get intense. I mean, they're already intense, but they're going to keep getting more intense. And that's where these kinds of practices, us coming together, sharing, community, all these things are all the more important. Because but the beauty of it is on the other side of that, when we make it through all the challenges and the hurdles we went through, like, we are going to be a force to be reckoned with, because then you have wisdom. Wisdom is applied knowledge, and it's experience. And it's like, wow, look what we went through, and look at the tools we used and we applied, and how we made it through this really challenging time as a collective.
You need that chaos to bring about harmony. Like the same thing, like you brought up the yin and yang before, like you need evil to bring about good, masculine and feminine. Like I'm big into like the balance, like the Thanos snap of the
Right.
fingers. Like maybe Thanos wasn't such a bad guy. Like he understood like that balance in the universe. Like
Right.
everything needs to be perfectly in order for it to come, it to keep occurring. Like you need the evil forces for the good to fight against them, because the good wouldn't have anything to be good for if there was no evil.
Yeah, and the evil is a good thing, or like that evil polarity, because like it allows us to, it's the best teacher in a sense, because it allows us to love and accept those evil entities or whatever, the matrix, the government, all that stuff. It allows us to love them, and that's the hardest thing, to love your enemy, right?
Right. Well, and to find that part of consciousness within yourself. And if we're really honest with ourselves, like when we really look, we'll always find it.
Yeah, no, loving your enemy, that's definitely difficult. So
We'll find within you.
yeah, exactly.
And a healer I worked with recently, she had me as a closing out to our healing session. Kind of homework was to write out like a couple pages of, I am loving all resistance to all illusions. And so that creates a kind of interesting meditative state, because it's like we feel resistance rise up, and then it's like, well, it's all an illusion. So you kind of just get back to this little circle of nothing really matters, but at the same time, it all matters. So it's interesting.
Because it's all destined to happen. It's always going to happen. It's going to happen forever. And it's
Well,
interesting you bring up that resistance. Like I find myself, and I'm sure most other people, like when resistance comes about, they try and fight it. Like people look at when they lose a game, like I play football, like we lose a football game and everybody looks at it as a loss, but like people don't look at it as a learning experience. Like
right.
everything's just sent at you, and it happens so that you can grow. And if you look at that as like, if you're grateful for those bad things that have happened or bad things that have happened, like then
Yeah.
you just keep going on the same path and growing from it.
Yeah, nothing
Right.
good or bad in a sense.
Well, that's where these tools that are coming about, like ice baths and the nail boards, which I have now. It's
Yeah,
like,
what can you talk a little bit on that? Because I literally watched a video you posted with that girl that works with the nail board,
yes,
essentially. And
all
like
that.
I saw that and I was like, wow, that's pretty, like that was the first time I ever like seen it. I was like, that's pretty like crazy.
That's an ancient technology. Like you have all the meridian organ systems that are in your feet, and so the cool thing about the nails is wherever your organ systems are flared up, it's going to show you through the pain signals. But everything will relax, so it will actually open up. You have to surrender to it. It's the key. If you fight it, it will kick you out. It's the same with the ice. The same with Sananga. I don't know if you're familiar with Sananga, but it's a
What's
plant
that?
medicine. They're eye drops, and it burns extremely bad on your eyes. But if you surrender to it, it's actually quite a beautiful experience, and it has very healing effects for astigmatism and other things like that. but yeah, it's the same with the ice. Like you get in the ice bath, and if you resist it and you're like trying to fight the cold, like it's your ass. But if you're able to just like sit back into the witness that's experiencing everything, into your heart center, then you know there's an ease to it. And so that's what these things like the nail boards are for, is surrendering to pain. Because the deeper we can go into pain, we will. What happens is you enter a state of nirvana when you surrender, and you're feeling that resistance come, and you're allowing it to just kind of like be there with you, and there's no like no resistance, and so that's a beautiful thing to surrender. And so these tools, they teach us to do that.
Yeah,
You're
because
comfortable being uncomfortable.
yeah, but when
Yeah.
you surrender, it's like you're like you said, you're surrendering to that nirvana, and it's like the science behind it is almost like when you're in that pain or you're in that ice bath, like your body just goes into that survival like instinct, right? But like that survival instinct is like the essence of like your natural being, and like you're just like, it's almost like that ice bath or that nail board is just like bringing you back home, you know what I'm saying?
Well, and it's a reminder of what to
That's
feel.
cool.
Sometimes we habitually will avoid certain areas in our body because they're uncomfortable, usually from emotion and other things. But the ice and these kinds of things, they bring you fully into your body. When you're in the ice bath, you feel all the cold prickles and stuff. Like that's what it means to be alive in human body. All that you're feeling the full sensory experience of your body, and you're here right now, present with it and breathing. Otherwise, your ass is getting out of the tub, like present
That's
moment.
yeah, that's like I just literally
Yeah, like our bodies have been made for bad stuff, to go through all these struggles. Like it's good to put it to the test and really experience those far aspects of what we were made for, both the very peaceful ones and then also the chaotic ones, the ones that hurt. It's good to really experience all of it, because that's truly what we were made for, to experience all of these wide ranges of emotions and physical attributes as well.
Well, and that reminds me of like the Tony Robbins, like they do the thing where they run the people on the stones. And my mentor Paul Check, he did it the firewalk, and he said it was like some people got it, like half the people got it, and like mind over matter, and they were fine, like cool moss, they're gonna just run across, and then, or like having scalded feet, you could smell the like burning flesh, and it was like